What terrifying confession has someone told you while drunk? I heard my mom telling her friend I was a mistake and the reason her and my dad divorced. That's why you don't eavesdrop. Once at a college party, this big guy got upset, picked up the table and threw it across the room, shouting, "My uncle molested me." Everyone was terrified, but we all felt really bad for the guy. My sister's boyfriend at the time told me he thought he might have fallen for the wrong sister. Doesn't compare to most of these. But my sister is my best friend, and I was so scared he might ruin that night before his wedding day. I'm still in love with C______, but I'm still gonna marry F_______ tomorrow because it's too late now. After a work party, the wife of a colleague and me ended up being the last two people standing. We were both fairly drunk when she started telling me about how she was raped by a priest when she was a kid. The church covered it all up and the bastard never faced any charges. If my ex were still in love with me, I wouldn't be married to you. I worked in a hospital and an alcoholic guy the first knew from around my town came in. Of course he was very drunk, so he got a bed. He was homeless at this point. Just as he was starting to settle, he screamed, "I slit his fucking throat!" Exclamation mark. Quote dot. So I went up to him and asked him to settle, and he started telling me that he did it while in the army and could never forgive himself for it, cried himself to sleep and died in the local park a few months later. At a family gathering, my grandma got tipsy and started to tell stories from her childhood. Well, she does this every time, no matter tipsy or sober. Guess it's just a normal grandma thing. This time it took a dark turn. She told us a story that is the reason she hates to go to the dentist and particularly hates the drilling part. She told us a story about when she was 6 years old. During WW2, my family lived in Hamburg, Germany, right next to the harbor. During a particular week in 1943, the city was continuously bombed and over 35,000 people died and more than 100,000 people were injured. The houses that were hit mostly burned down, creating a huge fire with such force that I sucked not only oxygen in, creating strong winds, but also people. The fire created such heat that people running out of their burning houses got stuck in the molten asphalt on the streets and burned to death. As it was all happening around her, that particular smell was present for over a week in her part of the city. Drilling in your tooth creates exactly that smell. My grandma had to stop the dentist, as she recognized the smell immediately. This story shook us to the core, as it came out of the blue. It still sends chills down my spine. For anybody who wants to read more about it, Operation Gomorrah. I had a male friend tell me he had raped me once when I was passed out drunk. I'm a straight male and had been friends with this guy for 15 years and had been drunk with him a lot. Since then I have found out a lot of messed up stuff about him. My ex told me that he had been molested by his sister between the ages of 6 to 11. She was 9 to 14. His dad walked in once and didn't do anything. His own family knew that he was being sexually abused for years and did absolutely nothing to protect him. My friend set me up with her brother's best friend, and me really trusting her judgment, I took a chance to be open-minded even though I wasn't really interested. I had met him before at a party years ago and we exchanged numbers. Talked briefly, but every time we chatted, he was partying and I didn't want that kind of upbeat lifestyle, so connection naturally phased out. So jump back 4 years later and here I am dating the guy because my best friend insisted he's different. Anyhow, I'd say our dates were casual. We would meet up and fish, have some drinks, and when we had a pretty good buzz on, we would go walk around these outdoor trails. He would tell me old stories while we walked. Well, I wasn't from the area and just thought, wow, this guy really loves to fish and hike. Every single damn time we hung out, we hiked to the same spot and the stories got more detailed. I assumed he was getting more comfortable and trying to open up more. Couple months in, We took the same hike absolutely hammered. I had never seen him that drunk before because he was taking a shot every time he caught a fishin'. It was 100 proof wild turkey. I was happy to be wasted because in the back of my mind I'm like, mother F this hike again, but he started to get weird. A story he has brought up about that area came up again. Basically one where him and his 3 brothers used to camp in a certain area we passed. He started explaining how shit was weird that day and how these fucks he mentioned before died there. He had already told me that previously, but then he failed to mention he knew the people that did it. He started getting real jumpy and angry and elaborating on how each one of them died, and how it felt to hold a Glock looking into someone's face. He described it in such detail that it came off like a first-hand story and not this is what they told me it felt like, and I basically realized he'd been taking me to an area where him and his brothers had killed people and he was confessing it, reliving it with me. I was literally freaking out but kept my cool. Used my drunkenness to tell him I needed to go home immediately because I was going to be sick from the booze. I remembered OTW back like a deer hitting my brain why I stopped talking to him those years ago. Aside from partying, he texted me at 2 to 4 a.m. one morning. I was with my new boyfriend at the time and remember mentioning it to him that someone had died, and it wasn't even in the papers until a few days later. So he was a very proud murderer. Breaking it off with him took me telling him I was going to go live with my sister who just found she was pregnant and needs my help. I literally lied because I obviously couldn't trust his recoil actions. Also, my friend who set us up didn't believe me and quit talking to me because he was so gorgeous and perfect, and I'm lucky. She would have done anything to be where I was. She had a boyfriend. People are insane. Edit: for those asking what I didn't call the police directly. I actually called my ex-roommate who was an active officer at the time. He told me that that murder had happened years ago and there's absolutely no evidence they could pin him down to. My statement would just be words on a file. But mainly, this was the real shit. He told me the factual reason to just move on was that his dad was a beloved sheriff in our community for 30 plus years. I didn't know that. He never talked about his parents. He told me they lived out of town and he was alone. My officer friend told me even if someone did believe me, there is no way they would take down the son of someone who is their own. Toughest shit to hear. I had someone tell me that he molested his daughter when she was an infant because he was angry and thought that his girlfriend had cheated on him and that she wasn't his biological daughter. He went on to say DNA testing was done and it was determined that she was actually his daughter and that he felt very guilty about the whole thing. His daughter was 7 to 8 at the time he told me this. I literally spent a night tossing and turning thinking about it and finally decided I had to report him. So my friend Samantha and I have another mutual friend, Terry, who cheated on her boyfriend. Also a friend. While he was out of town on a trip, Terry got pregnant and so had to tell her boyfriend, who broke up with her. She was heartbroken and apologetic, but she understood. She was hoping the kid would turn out to be her boyfriend's. But no luck. She had the kid and tried to make it work with the father for a while. But he turned out to be an abusive asshole who's now an absentee father. The whole thing caused a major rift in our friend group for a while. Anyway, one night Samantha got so drunk that she told me that Terry had actually slept with 2 dudes while her BF was out of town. Separate occasions. And just picked the one she liked better to assume he was the father when it wasn't her boyfriend's. So her boyfriend left town for 1 week. She had sex with 2 different guys. And didn't tell one of them she was pregnant. And so to this day has no idea if the kid's father is her actual father. And the other guy never knew anything. I thought that was pretty fucked up and it was hard to think of her the same way after that. Haha, I put Adderall in your beer. We're gonna party till the sun comes up, bro. Had a buddy tell me his friend drunkenly confessed to him that he had killed his stepdad and made It looked like a suicide. His stepdad had been abusive towards him and his mom for years and finally broke when he made it look like he had hung himself in their garage. I don't know who the friend was. I was never given a name or much else of the story. I was having dinner with a group of friends and one girl was talking about how at a party she helped a drunk guy friend get onto a bed and then she got him naked and started riding him. She said he woke up halfway through but was receptive, was very happy and completely okay with it because he found her hot. And after they were done he joked to her that he would have punched her face in and called the cops if he didn't find her attractive. I honestly wasn't sure how I was supposed to react to that story, because what she did was technically rape. But then if her victim genuinely didn't mind, then, yeah, I don't know. Granted, she was talking to a group of friends including me, so I didn't really have to give her a reaction. Went on at work doing my coworker, a major stone-faced blonde woman, got pretty drunk, ended up telling me she discovered her dad's body when he hung himself. Needless to say, I realized why she was the way she was after that. A friend of mine died from a drug overdose. After the funeral, a mutual friend of ours and we were getting drunk when he broke down crying. He asked me if I remembered the time when he and our dead friend told me about an accident that they'd witnessed where they saw a truck driver die. I told him I did. He then told me the most fucked up shit. He said that our friend ran up to the dying man and stole his wedding ring, and that the man couldn't do anything but look up, terrified, at our friend as he was being robbed. I knew they were bad into drugs, but I never thought they could do anything like that. I grew up with them. They were like my brothers. I don't really trust anyone completely anymore. One of my best friends since middle school opened up to me the day we had our last day of high school. We had been partying all day. Got off at 10 a.m. But most people left at around 3 p.m. to go get ready for the seniors' dinner and after party and whatnot. My friend stayed behind with our class president. I told him I'd pick him up for the dinner and left. When I got back, both were falling down drunk and in tears. A few years earlier, our class pres had lost his father. I take my buddy back to his house so he can get changed for the dinner, and on the way he tells me what happened. They had kept drinking when everyone left and eventually got to the topic of their dads. I had never met my friend's dad. He died and that was all I knew. I never knew how he died. It turns out my buddy's dad was a lawyer or something in the country he's from and was being extorted by a gang. When money started to run out, my buddy's dad sent the family to another country and told them he'd meet them there, that he had to finish some things up. A few weeks after moving, they learned that he had been murdered by the gang. It completely fucked my friend up. We always used to drink heavily and whatever since we were in high school. For me it was just drinking. For my buddy it was numbing the pain. It was fucking shocking when he told me this, and really made me understand him a lot more. Why he acted how he acted. My mother's first husband, the sperm donor. I was 16. She had just walked out that same day and he got extremely drunk and told me that I was never supposed to have been born and that I should have died with my brother. I asked him what he meant by my brother, since I had no siblings, and he confessed to beating the shit out of my mother when she was pregnant and she ended up in the hospital. I was born but my twin brother died in the womb. At the time my mother's English, she's Polish, was not good. So he claimed to doctors that she just fell down the stairs and threatened to have her deported, and used me as blackmail if she ever told anyone. I followed her soon after once she had contacted me that she'd found a place to stay. I asked her if she had anything to tell me regarding my birth and she told me the same story. I guess that explains why I felt like I was missing a part of myself all my life. My awesome boss at the time, who didn't say much about his life, confessed to me that his marriage wasn't something he wanted and that he's only staying in it for the love of his 2 young daughters. It was heartbreaking. She told me she poisoned her abusive ex. I got drunk with my uncle and we started talking about relationships. And as a game, I asked, "What's the biggest mistake you've ever made in a relationship?" We went back and forth saying all the dumb and fucked up things we've done to the women in our lives. And it's escalating, and we're becoming more and more honest. Until eventually he shouts excitedly, "I beat her." Quote, "It got dead silent. We drank quietly, then went to bed. It's never really been the same since. That they witnessed a mugging, stabbing outside of a bar, and did nothing but watch the person bleed on the sidewalk. I asked why they didn't call 911 and the excuse was that they knew the stabbing and didn't want to snitch." An ex, who was known for getting mad at me for having limits in the bedroom, told me she raped 2 women in HS in college. One so the bitch would leave her the fuck alone, and the other agreed to it. Said she enjoyed but never spoke to her again. My parents told me while very drunk that they were very kinky, into heavy BDSM, and that my dad was a bottom. My stepmom reassured me that they were also kinkier than I was. Not fun.